Hi, Christine here for the Greater Denton Arts Council at the Patterson-Appleton Art Center, and I am with my new friend Kathy Brown, who is from the UNT Visual Art Studies Department, which was my major. So Kathy has this beautiful piece here in the Meadows Gallery, part of the Materials Hard and Soft show that has 2 more weeks left, and she's going to tell us about herself and her piece and why she made it and how.
Hello everybody, again my name is Dr. Kathy J. Brown. I'm Assistant Professor of Art Education at the University of North Texas. Before that, I was an art teacher for many years. I taught elementary and middle school art in the city of my hometown, the city of Detroit, Motown. So here I am in Denton, and I wanted to share with you guys a piece that I created, and I'm so happy that the Materials Hard and Soft show accepted my work, and I'm so grateful to be here in this gallery space. So a little bit about my piece. It was made in response to the Breonna Taylor case and sort of the lack of accountability in the case. So it came out of kind of feelings of sadness, feelings of rage, feelings of fatigue. And as I started to sew, it first was out of necessity because that was in the middle of the quarantine, and I was making masks for family and friends to donate and for people I know. And as I started sewing, I like to sew by hand. I've been sewing since I was in the 2nd grade. And as I was sewing, I just started playing around with like different patterns. And so then before I knew it, I just kind of started, from the mask, I started making a piece that was just growing and growing and growing. And then as I was working, an image came to mind of a woman who was sort of representing everyday Black women in honor of Breonna. And I knew I wanted her head to be wrapped with a headscarf, because many Black women today, this is the style that we wear the headscarf, and we're actually reclaiming something that was a part of our period of enslavement. And so you oftentimes see women with these headscarves on, and it also comes from our ancestors in ancient Africa, or in Africa period. So I knew that I wanted her to look a particular way, but I wasn't sure. The fabric kind of formed on its own, and I'm not a quilter, but as I went on, it started to take on quilting, quilt-like qualities, and which was not on purpose. It was sort of like the ancestors were speaking to me in a way and kind of telling me what this was. And once I finished it, my grandfather is from a grouping of people in the South Carolina Low Country called Gullah Geechee. And I started to research quilting traditions or cultural traditions of the Gullah Geechee people. And I found out there's something called strip quilting, which I had never heard of and I had never done, but innately I was doing that. So in a way, my grandfather and his lineage were speaking through me and through the fabric and through the needle and thread and forming this figure. And so as I was sort of cutting these different strips and putting them together, it wasn't something I pre-thought out, like which piece went where. I just kind of, again, let the fabric sort of juxtapose itself. And then as it formed, I wanted it to be like a skin garment. The idea, there's a zipper, and the idea that you can take it on and off, like this is a skin, but a garment that people want to try on and take off. So when I thought about it, that's when I decided to buy a bust from the beauty supply store. And it was actually only $6. It was a used one that they had. And then I took the fabric and kind of started to measure, and so that it would fit the bust kind of perfectly, because I do have a background too in some fashion design courses. And then once this all came about, then the headscarf, and then some wire, and the wire here. And then once I finished her and looked at her, I was just like, wow, what? Wow, where did that come from? So again, the impetus was the notion of sort of this long-held issue of police brutality in America, which we know that the Derek Chauvin trial just was completed, and we sort of got a momentary feeling of justice and accountability, only to the same day there was another police shooting of a young lady and a young boy also named Adam Toledo and Micaiah Bryant. So it's sort of these fleeting ideas of you get a piece of it and then it kind of slips through your fingers. So, and then there's also a song by an artist named Fantastic Negrito. I could be pronouncing the name, but he had a song called The Clothes That Won't Come Off. And it's the idea of, again, people want to try on what they think black culture is or what they think it is to be black because it seems cool, but in reality, they don't really want to be that or go through what that comes with. So that was why it was a zipper, and that's why it was the idea that this was skin and you can try to remove it and put it on, but you can't. And another inspiration was the artist Nick Cave, who does these pieces called sound suits, and where they're made out of like raffia and these sequins and all these fabrics. And his work is kind of considered Afrofuturistic, and one of the things I'm studying now and becoming is an Afrofuturist. So this piece in particular, in a way, is Afrofuturistic because it's a nod to my past, my own cultural past, as well as looking towards the future and honoring those who are now with the ancestors, but still looking to see how we thrive in the future, despite a distressing past, distressing present. And in my artist statement, I say that she represents the everyday black woman and sort of the indignities that microaggressions and things that you experience on a regular basis, but we still choose joy. So the colors are bright, and it's eye-catching to look at because we still choose joy as a revolutionary act. So if someone, I know this is going to be seen by wonderful 8th graders. I told you I was an elementary and middle school art teacher, so I love kids and I love making art with kids. So for any of the 8th graders who see this, or anyone who sees this of any age, and you want to make something similar or whatever your own style is, I would suggest looking back into your own past, looking into maybe a pivotal moment in your life or a pivotal moment that's happening in present day, but looking to the traditions of people who are within your own culture and seeing, well, how do they do things? Because 9 times out of 10, you may be doing that and not even realize it comes from your great-grandmother or your great-grandfather or whomever it is. But this piece means a lot to me, and I've been an artist for a long time, but I've been a professor and an art teacher, and I kind of put to the side my own art making for a time. And like I said, the tumultuous summer just kind of stirred me, sort of like, what is my role? What do I do? So I started making, and then I started including these kind of discussions in my curriculum, and then my colleague and I put together a talk series called the 2044 series, Anti-Racist Practices, Art and Design, Futurist Pedagogy. So we all have our own ways of dealing with sort of the present day ills of the world. And this was an outcome of that. But again, we're choosing joy as a revolutionary act. And in addition, if you look underneath, you'll see that, so you'll see that it's all hand stitched, and there's some wire under here, if you'll be able to see the wire or not. But I stitched the wire into the body of the fabric, and then the zipper, I don't want to take it loose because it's up here, but the zipper comes down, and then you can take the whole figure, her skin off, and this is separate. So this is one piece, this is one piece, this is the whole body here is all, and the head is all one piece. So it took me about 6 months to complete the entire piece, and right now I'm actually working on a male counterpart for her, who the next show that I exhibit this piece in, hopefully that will be done, and I'm going to exhibit them side by side with the idea of honoring both black men and black women who have been killed by police brutality cases, which we know has been happening for at least 100 years. And in addition to that, I'm working on another piece that's similar in style to the strip quilting, even though I'm not a quilter, I would not, pretend to be, but it's a tapestry piece that kind of hangs down. I'm working on a series of those as well. So I'm now finding that I'm calling myself a fiber artist and a fiber artist. When before I was a painter and an illustrator, and I did some fashion illustration as well, and I worked with marker and watercolor. But now I'm primarily working with fabric and ideas of kind of sculpting with fabric. So this one is, again, sculpted around a hard, pre-made bust, but the ideas of how you put one piece next to the other, and then it'll stand on its own, or how you fold one thing and then you tuck something else, and the way like a whip stitch as opposed to a running stitch, all of that has a way of sculpting and making it into its own being. If I'm not saying something that sounds, you're probably like, she's a little weirdo, but I'm an artist, it's okay, nothing wrong with that. So, and then another part of this was finding the fabric pieces. So each of these, I would go just to fabric stores and try to find material that looked like it was authentically from the continent of Africa, or looked like it could have African sort of geometric patterns in it. And some of it was like this one here this was actually from Walmart, and it wasn't necessarily an African fabric, but I liked the sort of patterning of it. And then in some areas, I even think I have the red, black, and green flag from Marcus Garvey in some spots.
I can see some like well, there's
I had it. It might be in another piece that I'm working on, but like there's a few spots here. There's red, black, and green.
The colors together.
Mm-hmm. So I was trying to kind of pay homage to that. And one of my goals is to eventually get to. There's an artist named Stephen Hamilton who's actually an Afrofuturistic illustrator and painter, and he has studied how to craft dye fabric. He actually went to, I believe, Nigeria, so he knows how to dye his own fabric and make his own fabrics like this. And that's something that in the future I would like to do, as opposed to going out and buying sort of faux Africana pieces, to actually sort of make my own. But that is the impetus of it. And then here, when I got to this area, this involved some tucking and some measurement, and I wanted it to look like she doesn't have eyes, she doesn't have a face or a mouth, but I wanted it to look like her mouth was being covered and she was being silenced. And then I wanted this to look like it was sort of an act of violence, and that it's being torn and ripped away. But I also wanted it to be something that, although it represents a horrific event, I still wanted it to be something that honors, and not just something that brings up trauma, but something where you look and you can say, well, Breonna would be happy with that, or any of the women who have been through many things would be happy with that. So that was just part of what I was doing. And then I decided not to sew the bottom pieces, but to let the fabric sort of have frayed ends and have its own imperfections. And in the back, as I started to cut it, I did not, let me lift it up so you can see what I'm talking about. So in the back, when I started to cut it, again, I didn't fold it over and make a hem. And you can see the thread there. Again, I have the idea that it's perfectly imperfect. Mm-hmm. And I was initially going with the vertical patterns, but then some parts I started to kind of play around with the directions to give it a different sort of sculpted feel. And also I wanted the back to kind of look like, those dresses from like the 1800s where you have the bustle.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted this to be like a bustle, kind of flipped up like that. But that was what I was going for. And again, I'm starting to work in this style, and I'm going to have several other pieces that I'm going to be exhibiting. And I'm actually working on an article where I'm talking about, actually I'll be submitting on April 30th, and for the Journal of Contemplative Practice, where I'm speaking about how I made the work and the ancestral homage, the strip quilting tradition from the Gullah Geechee people, and then speaking about sort of how I'm finding myself while I'm finding heritage. And actually I was just talking to Christine about a movie I saw called Tiger Tail on Netflix, where a gentleman he's from Taiwan, but it's also kind of about heritage and looking back. So I think that's something that's important for young people to do. Talk to your grandparents, talk to your mom, talk to your uncles, and ask them about things that are unique to your family. And again, I found out that strip quilting is unique to the Gullah Geechee people, which is a descendant of my grandfather from the Sea Islands, or the low country of South Carolina. And I can't think of anything else to say.
Well, you have a couple of comments.
Oh.
Allison Jones says, wow, really beautiful and cool piece, really beautiful. And Sally Shaw said beautiful.
Thanks.
So, and we've had several people viewing. You've had some little hearts and some little thumbs up going as you've been talking. I just didn't want to interrupt you. I just didn't want to stop you.
I appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
So yeah, so this is a beautiful piece, and it to me says exactly what you're saying by just looking at it. And I know with a lot of art pieces, people will say, well, this is cool, but I'm not sure what they're trying to say, but this is clear, very clear. In looking at the title, it says exactly what it is. Mary Wright also said wonderful artwork. So yeah, so thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing the pieces all come together, maybe back here when there's more than one piece. And Mary also said, love to see sharing of heartfelt works. So,
Thank you.
and that's perfect. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.